For coming, taking your time out of your day to be here today. This is very important to us all. My name is Hakim Crampton.
My name is Perry Stone Palmcrest.
And this is a very important event, not only for us in education, but for our own personal stories. We all come to this place and spaces, very important spaces in our own lives. I come into this work in education justice. Unfortunately, I got a chance to work with her for about 5 or 6 years for the Student Advocacy Center from about 2014 until 2020, 2021 or so. So I had a great opportunity to work in and out of our schools, throughout the Jackson Public Schools, and as well as throughout the state, working in and out of education and juvenile justice. So we all have shared points of interest here tonight while we are here. Perry has a story of her own to introduce herself.
Okay. I'm going to introduce Student Advocacy Center in a minute, but I'm happy to be here. I am a mom, I'm an advocate, and I run the Student Advocacy Center of Michigan, which I'm going to tell you about in just a minute, and have enjoyed. I've been at SAC for 12 years and have loved coming and getting to know so many folks in Jackson. So you share many of the challenges that we face in Ypsilanti, in Detroit, in Taylor, and many of the other school districts that we are united by a lot of the same issues, and y'all have your own challenges. We each have our own unique challenges throughout the state as well.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for doing the work that you're doing here in Jackson on behalf of the Student Advocacy Center of Michigan. We want to emphasize this is a C3 nonpartisan event. That we do not endorse any of the candidates here. We let the candidates themselves speak for themselves, endorsing themselves. We are here to facilitate a conversation between them and you as the community. So as we're going through our welcoming purpose, as you see, we're going to discuss really what's at stake here in the community of Jackson. Over the next 6 years, these candidates here will have a very tough job to work and manage our school district. So we want to find out what's really at stake here. We're going to have those kind of conversations, give them a chance to ask conversations. We'll ask a lot of conversations, also have input from the audience as well. We want to also thank our wonderful food that you've been enjoying so far from Kenikakes and more. Really thank them. They've been working in our community in and out, sponsoring a lot of different events. We love them.
Thank you to Justin for recording tonight for us. I had to ask him yesterday because the person who was going to do it wasn't able to. So we will be posting this on our YouTube channel, so keep an eye out for that. I want to tell you about, we're part of Student Advocacy Center and Family Coalitions for Change as part of this statewide coalition called the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. And we are really working to fight for healing and healthy schools around our state. So we're really proud to be a part of that coalition. There are candidate forums sponsored by MEJC and local organizations happening all over the state, talking about some of the same and unique issues. So we're proud to be a part of that coalition. Student Advocacy Center we're celebrating our 50th anniversary, actually, if you can believe that. I can't. But we've been in Jackson for, I want to say, 14 years. Our headquarters are in Ypsilanti, and we're in Detroit also, have offices in Detroit and here. We believe education is a right, and we're working to fight so that young people have the education that they need. Tom is our advocate over there in Jackson, so he goes to special education IEP meetings, he goes to school discipline meetings, all sorts of stuff to get students back in school, learning and growing and getting the support that they need. And so if you want to find out more information, make sure you grab Tom if you have a young person who needs help. And we also have a statewide helpline that families from all over can call, just if they have a question, my kid's family, I don't know what to do, that sort of thing. So.
And who is the Family Coalition for Change? Many of them, if they're in, some of them are in the audience today, they can shout themselves out. Family Coalition for Change, thank you for doing the work that you're doing in our community. You can read their mission statement. Our mission is to organize, educate, advocate, and support parents and students through developing a JPS district that honors each student, celebrates and uplifts our diverse cultures, and that equitably responds to the individual needs of each family while providing wraparound support. What is our vision? Our vision is a thriving organization of students, parents, and teachers, knowledgeable, supported, and robust advocates in an equitable and inclusive educational community. Their email address is Family Coalition for Change. We thank them for co-sponsoring this event, facilitating and bringing this wonderful conversation together tonight. So why do school board elections matter? as you all know, it matters to you all. So this is almost something that doesn't necessarily have to be said. But this graphic here shows us, school boards make decisions about the budget, which is very important, about school discipline, which is very, very important, strategic direction, about the direction of the school, where it's going to go, what its priorities are going to be, and so much more. And they also hire and evaluate the superintendent. So this is an important matter for all of us as community citizens, as parents, to be involved and committed to our school, right? And to then therefore supporting, actually then for hiring school board members who would then represent us, right? Represent the community. So it's very, very important, as you all know, and as you are here. How many seats are open in our district right now? There are 3 open seats will be open. 6-year terms. There are currently 10 candidates running. We thank the candidates that are currently here today. Few of them were unable to be here. We also thank them for their participation and commitment to our community.
So I want to talk briefly about some of the priorities that are shared with Michigan Education Justice Coalition. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right as the pandemic was happening, all of us did listening sessions around the state, and really, what was it? If we could reimagine our public schools, what would they look like? And one of the most important is that they're equitably and fully funded. So we are going to talk tonight, hopefully, about what are their priorities for the school budget, but we also have to recognize that our public schools are not fully funded, and that there's some systemic things that need to change so that they have the resources that they need to be able to meet the needs of our young people, right? So that's just a reality that's beyond, that's why we all have to be working together around the state on that particular issue. We believe that public schools need to prioritize mental health. We're actually working on some advocacy for the supplemental budget in the state because millions and millions of dollars was cut from our state for mental health funding for public schools. And our young people are telling us that that's unacceptable, and I agree with them. We are having a mental health crisis with our young people and even with our educators, and we need to make sure that we have those robust supports in place. That really students and caregivers need to have power, voice, agency in decisions that are being made. So there needs to be transparency, that they need to be brought into decision making, and that is really important. And that, yeah, that's fine, yes. Okay, I want to do one quick slide on this. Has anyone heard of at-risk money? I hate that name, that's what it's called. 31A, at-risk money, also now called Opportunity Fund. So if our state, the state of Michigan, fully funded the Opportunity Index, 31A, there would be $11.45 million extra in Jackson Public Schools to fund things like behavior intervention specialists, tutors, in classroom support, that extra support that folks need. So this is one of the things that we're really fighting for at the state level, so that districts, especially districts where there's concentrated poverty, are getting more resources. So you go ahead. So what do we need from candidates? We need candidates who are going to work with others around the state on some of these issues. We can't be silent because this isn't popular to necessarily do some of these things, right? So we need to work together on securing more resources for our public schools. We need candidates who are engaged with how that money is spent locally and really investing that 31A money in behavioral supports. We see every day the impact on young people who don't have behavioral health supports in school and have been pushed out, expelled, suspended, pushed into virtual school, and they don't want to be in virtual school. We need candidates who host town halls like this, right, with parents and caregivers to really hear what your priorities are for the budget. So if they're not having conversations that are transparent, that's the problem, right? You can go to the next. We need candidates who champion building accountability team with youth caregivers, community members who really look at discipline data and really work to suggest changes. We know how harmful expulsions and suspensions are, and so we really need to be looking at that and working together as communities to try to change that. One of the things we've been talking about is having school districts really be transparent about what are your ideas for alternative to suspension. You can document that. We have a tool we can share with you. So how are you doing that? And we need candidates who are publicly reviewing data, achievement data and discipline data, disaggregated by race and disability status, and being held accountable for those numbers.
So really, the question for us as a community citizens really is, what are our next steps to get involved besides engaging in conversations like this and talking with our community and public forums like this that are very important to talk with our local candidates. So the first step, of course, is September 26th, which is right around the corner from now. It's the first day that you can actually vote in person with an absentee ballot downtown here in Jackson, or if you're from another district, if you're interested there, if you live. And the last day on October 21st to register to vote online or by mail. And just for statistical purposes, October 22nd, you'll need to register in person at your city township with proof of residency. Also, some next steps, November 4th, at 4 p.m., deadline to vote in person with an absentee ballot at your city or township. November 5th, of course, is election day. It's very important for those of us to get down and vote and participate in this important conversation, because that's what it is. And it's not only a conversation, but it's an empowerment. It's an opportunity for your voice to really be empowered, to have a say-so in what's happening at your school district. So that, in fact, when something is happening with one of your students, your child, or someone that you're connected or concerned with, you know whom to reach out to for support. The people whom you've empowered today with your voice at the ballot, right? And that's whom you hold also accountable to your voice and to your interests, right?
And then before you leave today, if we're going to have the last few minutes, we have cards. We really want you to think about how you're going to get more involved. Maybe you're going to drive someone to vote. Maybe you're going to talk to 3 neighbors about voting and thinking about public education when you're voting. There's lots of different ways that you can get involved, but just be thinking as you're listening to these candidates how important this election is and what you're going to try to do to help turn out folks. And we have lots of things, and how you're going to get involved just in larger, like maybe you are interested, how could I get $11 million more into my public school district? Maybe you want to be part of the statewide movement that we're a part of to really build healthy and healing schools. So at the end, Tom's going to pass those cards out, and we hope you'll fill some of those out and stay engaged. You go to Advocacy Day in Lansing. There's lots of things happening around the year to really build strong public schools. Yeah, and yeah.
So we had some students who were at the door saying that they wanted to sit in here.
Yeah.
They were like, there's no chairs. Are we able to pull chairs out before we get too deep?
Yeah, I will do, well, or can someone volunteer to go find chairs?
Is that upstairs?
maybe? Or-
Usually they're
back
back there.
there.
A lot of times.
Oh, back there?
Yeah, usually they're there. A lot of
Thanks,
times.
Keisha. Yes.
Yeah. And we'll let the men get up and get the chairs if they want. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank
Gentlemen. Thanks, gentlemen.
Here's 2 and up.
Can I really? Probably, I would say we got one line up in case other folks come. That way they see it and they can.
Thanks, everybody. That's so nice.
Thank you.
While they're doing that, I will say, one of the handouts that you can grab on your way out, we do have a website where you can look up actually candidates throughout the state, but hopefully everyone here already filled out the Michigan Education Justice Coalition survey, and so you can get more information, even more than what you're getting tonight, to learn about their stances on different issues. So I encourage you to look at that. And there's a QR code that you can scan later if you want to dive in deeper. All right, go ahead.
Absolutely. So let's get to why we're here. Let's get to the candidates introducing themselves. It says candidates will have 1 minute to respond, but I myself am not going to be so strict. I don't know if Perry is.
Tom's gonna be strict.
I don't know if Perry is. I'm not going to, because it may take you, of course, more than 1 minute to express yourself.
I'm gonna be strict.
To respond and give an adequate answer. We want to hear from you, and that 1 minute just may not be long enough. So I'm not going to be that strict. I don't know about her. And so we will get ready to ask you these questions. Are you all ready? Are you all ready here tonight?
Yeah.
Great, thank you for being here. Give yourselves a round of applause one time for coming tonight. Y'all want to come in? Come on in. Get y'all something to eat while y'all need to sit down too real quick. Yeah, get y'all something to eat and have a seat. Join us.
Okay, so the way we're gonna do this is this is our talking piece, is the microphone, to bring some restorative practices into our work today. So we'll start, but if you only start one time, you only be the first person once. Don't worry, yeah, then we'll pass it to the next person. Okay, so just pass the mic when you're done. Tom's gonna let you know if you're going a little too long. We try not to be too strict, okay? All right, here's the first question. And the candidates have all been given the questions ahead of time. And also, these questions came from our families and from our partners, and so these are just like random questions that we came up with. We've also done this a few times, so we tend to know which questions are helpful and not helpful, and we had to keep them 501c3 compliant. So here we go. Introduce yourself and tell us what experiences you have that will make you an effective board member. What prior leadership or board experience do you have, and how have you supported children in this community in the past?
So my name is Shannon Barbara Davis. To start, I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother of a kindergartner at Dibble. Soon to be cancer survivor, I'm a social worker. When I think about who I am at my core, I'm an individual that's just passionate about people and about their challenges. When I think about leadership, I was told by someone you don't have to necessarily be in a leadership capacity to be a leader. I think about somebody that can guide, they inspire, influence. So I feel like in getting me as a candidate, that's what you're gonna have. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Closer.
Good evening. My name is Jocelyn Cotton. I've been in Jackson all my life. I'm a mother of one son. Today's his birthday. He's 35. And I have 3 grandchildren. One is 12. He goes to Parkside. The other one is 10. He goes to Northeast. And then I have a granddaughter who goes to Michigan Center School. I've been active within the community all my life. I used to work at Foot Hospital, which is now Henry Ford. I worked in marketing and community relations. Now I work for, which is called Elara Care. Used to be Great Lakes in Jackson, but we're now nationwide. So I'm manager of our call center, and we're a home care, hospice, and partner services department. So I manage the call center, which I have 20 people underneath me. So management is something I was brought into, I've always wanted to do. So I've been enjoying that, managing people all over, because we're nationwide all over the United States. So being involved in the community is what I've always done. I used to be called Mama Viking because my son was always involved in sports and all different things within the schools. I used to be junior achievement involved with junior achievement. I also was big brother, big sister. I have a little sister that now works for McDonald's, just and has kids, so that makes me feel old. And I am involved with the Save Our Youth program with Thomas Burke, involved in Northeast School in the equity program. I'm also a participant with the district improvement. I just got involved in that. So my involvement has always been with people, and kids have always been my passion. So I just want to help make decisions, help make things better for children. It's always dumbfounding to me the things that kids go through, especially since the pandemic. Even to this date, 2024, they're still getting acclimated to going to school, being in school, and going through what I want to say. Directions. I mean, I was kind of dumbfounded when I went to Northeast that a kid will just walk out of classroom. So they just need directives, and parent involvement. My thing is getting parents more involved. I know that the doors are locked for people's safety and the kids' safety, but the parents need to feel welcome to come into the school and help initiate and help with things with the students. So I just want to get more involved with the community, with the kids, and with the school board, and make everything more cohesive.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Damage. I'm a resident of the city of Jackson. I have 2 little boys that go to Cascades Elementary, Ezra and Isaac Damage, and they're actually sitting right up front here. They're both 6 and 8 years old. One's 6, one's 8. They can't be 2 ages at the same time. In my professional career, and this speaks to why I think I have what made a good candidate in my experiences in the past, I have to preface this with this. Anything that I say tonight or during my candidacy does not represent the views of the Michigan Department of Attorney General nor Attorney General Nessel herself. I've spent the past approximate 15 years as an Assistant Attorney General in the state of Michigan, defending various state agencies from the Michigan Department of Corrections, Department of Treasury, to MSP. And through that, I have rose the ranks to what's called a litigation specialist. Now, I want to say as a litigation specialist, that doesn't mean that all I do is fight. One of the great things about being an Assistant Attorney General is we get to have cutting edge cases. One of the only cons is we don't get paid the big lawyer money, but we get great experience. And I've had great experiences with not only litigating cases from the trial level to the Supreme Court level and back down, taking hundreds of depositions, conducting trials. I'm more proud of the amount of cases that I settle. And when it comes, and I imagine the majority of you all in here had to deal with the state of Michigan at some point. I represent those state agencies. So it's very hard sometimes to get them on board to what would be a reasonable settlement, to make sure, in fact, that we're doing right, not just by the state, but by the taxpayer who has sued the state and also the taxpayers overall. So these are policy changing decisions that don't just impact the named plaintiff in the case, it's the entire state. And I head those meetings up with state agency heads, with their direct reports, and they're defending decisions that they made in the past that they're being sued over. And they sometimes have to be softly told that you are in the wrong and talk them down. And I am very good at doing that. I've done that in the past, and I'm known as someone to settle cases, not to litigate. But when I do litigate, I take an excellent deposition. And as it was pointed out earlier, the next board that we're going to elect is most likely going to pick the next superintendent. And one thing about a deposition is, it's nothing more than a job interview on steroids. And so I have, over the past 15 years, have developed a keen ability to ask appropriate questions, direct questions. It's probably why I'm divorced right now. But I'm very good at drawing out answers to questions that are going to be vital, not just to other board members who might have a different viewpoint than me, but for taxpaying citizens to know that we are fully vetting people who are going to represent and make decisions for our children. And that brings me to the next point. On a personal level, why my prior experience, I have board member experience within the city of Jackson itself. I've been a member of the Parks Board and Jackson Parks Board of Recreation, Parks and Recreation for probably approaching 5 years. Sorry, the COVID years caused that weird time period where it seemed like it was a year, but it was really 3. I serve on Ellis Sharp Park Board. I also serve on the Jackson Rehabilitation Board Authority as well. So I understand what it means, who you owe a duty to as a board member, what your obligations are as a board member, how to look at the documentations and the documents, explain what your jobs and duties are, and how to hold people accountable appropriately. And that's what in my opinion, that's what's expected from our taxpayers, to operate in a way that is fair to everybody. If there are bad things going on, vet it and go the proper way with it. But let's not let that loud noise distract from what this community has done over the past years. The current board, you're one of the few districts in this state, and you can look at it, Bridge Magazine, it's actually in the green. That's impressive after COVID. It's very impressive, and they should be very proud of that. And I know it's not the work of just one person, it's an entire administration coming up with ideas how to save money. And y'all did it. But we're not flush with cash. And we need to be safe with who's going to be leading us in the future, not just from the board perspective, but also from a superintendent perspective, from a hiring perspective, on our end.
Thank you.
I can go forever, so thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Davis. I'm a proud product of JPS, specifically our alternative education programs, Amy Firth and Tomlinson, and I have 2 young boys over at Hunt Elementary School. For the last 9.5, 10 years of my professional career, I've been in leadership positions, and I've specifically developed a knack for developing teams and creating a positive culture within the workplace. Currently, I'm the operations supervisor at Judicial Services Group right downtown, where we work directly with offenders through the court system and help them navigate their pretrial bond conditions. And sometimes we work with probation clients as well. I have, over the course of my life, mentored younger students through my Taekwondo class. I've been in Taekwondo since I was, I think, 8 or 9, can't remember at this point. And recently had the opportunity to stand with a student over at Parkside who needed his voice heard as well. So all those reasons I want to bring to the school board and really try to change the culture for our students into a more positive culture so they feel heard, represented, and understood, and then start working that into the staff as well. So start with students, then go to staff, and then with those processes we can change the culture of the school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Elena Sharp. I am a high school chemistry teacher. I am a mom of 5 and an avid reader, a runner. I recently completed a 100-mile race in California, which I hope tells you more that I am not afraid of hard things and challenges and less questionable decision making. So thank you for having me here tonight. I think by far what I bring to the table more than anything else is just 20 years of classroom experience. So being in the classroom in front of 28 to 30 teenagers every day has helped me understand that all of them have beautiful, unique needs. While I also understand that where I teach, which is Western High School, is a vastly different place than Jackson, and we have different needs, and I need to learn and understand what those are, and I can't wait to do it. So along those lines, I am excited to listen and learn what we can do to support teachers, what we can do to support students here. So as I learn and listen, that is something that I will be able to then weigh against what is the reality of the classroom. Things that actually are happening in classrooms. I firmly believe that the farther away from the classroom you get, the harder it is to make decisions that really truly make an impact on our students. In addition to that, I helped co-found an event called Nerd Camp. And Nerd Camps are all over the country now. They are free literacy events for students. They started right here in Jackson. So we've had thousands of attendees from across the country, authors, illustrators, free pizza, lots and lots of fun. So I think my educational experience is what I really bring to the candidacy. Thank you so much.
My name is Tabitha Williams. I am the Community Service Labor Liaison with the United Way for South Central Michigan. Prior to my position with United Way, I was in hotel management at a local hotel here in Jackson County for over 25 years. I did sit on the board of Experience Jackson, which is the Convention and Visitors Bureau for Jackson County, for all 25 of those years as well. So in that, I believe that I have a good understanding of the way that a board works, the sacrifices that oftentimes need to be made, the decisions that need to be made, and that sometimes everybody at the table is going to be a little unhappy with those decisions. But at the end of the day, what's important is that the board is able to communicate, the board is able to hear one another, and that's definitely something that I feel I can bring to the table. I have many years of customer service under my belt, so I understand the importance of listening. Listening to hear, not listen to listen, not listen to push the problem away, but actually being dedicated and finding out what the underlying issue is. I have 3 children currently enrolled in JPS. I have 10-year-old twins at Sharp Park and a 16-year-old at SCMB. I am a Jackson High alumni as well. I've lived in Jackson County my entire life. My current work puts me in community every day. Every day I go out and I support our ALICE population, and for anybody that doesn't understand what that is, it's the asset limited income constraint population within Jackson County. Right now that's 48% of our county. These are children that are coming from these households, that are coming to our school district, that are challenged, they're facing barriers, they're having issues. I believe that I understand some of those issues because I grew up one of those Alice children who then became one of those Alice adults. So now here I am in a better situation, thanks in part to Jackson Public Schools and some of the segues and doors that opened for me and the teachers that I had experience with. But I really feel like I may not have the educational experience and I may not have the experience of an attorney general or assistant attorney general, but I have perspective. I have perspective as a parent, as a community member, and as a person that is not afraid to speak up and say what needs to be said. Thank you.
Thank you all for introducing yourselves. Thank you for everyone for the time that we're continuing to spend with you all. I want to ask you the next round of questions. We want to talk about your top 3 priority policy issues and how will you begin to champion them in the school district on the board. What would be your top 3 policy priority issues?
I think my top 3 priorities, one would be the mental and social health and well-being of our students. We have students that are struggling far more today than they have ever struggled. And unfortunately, the supports even that I had in place at Jackson High 20 plus years ago are no longer there. And it's not because we don't want them there. It's just unfortunately things have shifted. So I think there's a lot of work to be done in that regard. I also feel like a priority needs to be supporting our teachers and making sure that they are given the resources and tools to be able to help the children that are showing up in their classrooms every day. Lastly, one of my priorities would be trying to gel our board. Regardless of the difference of opinion, we have to be a board that comes together and can sit down and have conversations and ensure the fact that this work is getting done. The more that we get caught up in the differences and some of the other things, that's halting the progress, which is helping our children.
If I had to name 3 top priorities, my first one would piggyback on that. I think we need, by far, there's a need to heal the relationship between the board and leadership at JPS and the stakeholders. So I think that's a huge priority before we can move forward with identifying other areas of need. Number 2, I think we need to attract and retain the best people that we can get. We talked about all of these important people that we need to have in our buildings that are working in the trenches, one-on-one with students, making a huge impact in their day-to-day. We need to make this a place that they want to come and they want to stay. And right now, we're not doing that. Number 3, I want to build what's called collective efficacy as a district. I think of this as, imagine that you are an amazing player on an incredible team. We want everyone in our district to feel like they are a star player on this team that's on fire. And we do that by building this culture and accelerating this culture of we are all headed in the right direction, doing what is right for students. So we have to provide those resources where people feel like they have that efficacy, they're amazing at what they do, they have the resources for what they do, they are supported in what they do. It takes baby steps, but for me, it's essential.
So my top 3 priorities, number 1 is going to be parent engagement and involvement, and we're going to do that through town halls. We're going to make sure the board is being transparent and communicating out to the public when our board meetings are going to be and where, and we're going to do that. Excuse me. We're going to do that by allowing parents to email in comments back to the board, just as we did during the COVID days, so that way parents that are at work or just do not have the ability to attend a meeting can still have their voice heard by the board. I'm going to champion special education and alternative education. I spoke earlier about being a product of JPS in the alternative schools. Tomlinson, T.A. Wilson, and Amy Firth are the 3 alternative schools I attended, and we were underfunded and under-resourced in every sense that you could imagine. And so I'm going to champion for funding to go back into those programs and make sure that we retain those programs. And then fiscal responsibility. In 2017, the district identified $150 million worth of projects that they wanted to do with the bond that was passed in 2018. And they did about $86 million worth of projects, but they ignored the structural problems such as the tower at Jackson High and the foundation issue at the administration building and the flooding at Parkside. Those are infrastructure issues that should have been prioritized, and they weren't. So we're going to ask for another bond come May, and if that bond passes through the community, then we need to make sure that that money is used as it is intended to be used, and that we're addressing those issues. If that bond does not pass, those issues don't disappear. We still have to pay to fix those, and so we need to figure out, in a time where the state has already cut our funding in other areas, how are we going to fix those issues without jeopardizing special education, alternative education, or losing teachers out of the classroom? Thank you.
Okay, so I have three main priorities. The first begins with the pay of our staff, from teachers to parapros to counselors, up and down the board. This board is going to have to renegotiate 5 major collective bargaining agreements in the near future, 3 of which are coming up in the next year. These are areas where we talk about where can we save money, how could we get more funding to teachers. These are areas we can focus on. True areas that, as a board, I would like to look into and see, negotiating with the union that I've negotiated my life's work, to see are there areas we could perhaps save a little bit here and there to be able to increase, not just increase teacher salaries, but to increase the hiring of behavior specialists. I guarantee you're gonna hear from every one of the candidates in here, and as you should, mental health is a major problem. And you can't have a teacher, and Elena, you could probably speak to this, you can't address the mental health problems of 30 kids in a year. You can't. We can't expect high school counselors to be assigned to 300 students. There's not even enough days in a year to see each one of them. If there's more money available to hire the counselors, the parapros, this is the glue of our schools. These are the individuals that help our teachers at times of crisis when they're having breakdowns to take care of the children. So I would make sure that there would be money available to not just increase salaries or remain stable salaries of teachers, but also to take care of our support staff. That goes from all the way down from secretary to parapro, all the way up to high-level counselors, especially counselors, because it is needed. My second would be that I would further expand the excellent relationship that the JPS already has with our very robust 501c3 network in this city. Look what's happening tonight. This doesn't happen in a lot of places. And I understand you're not based out of Jackson, but this is what Jackson is. As an outsider from Jackson, you guys have been living here for 9 years. This is what I've been seeing for 9 years. It's community engagement. It's people creating 501c3 organizations that attract youth to help plant gardens. It's a 501c3 organization that I helped co-incorporate with people in the parks and trails of Jackson that help better the trails that get kids to school. Areas like that will lessen the burdens of government and to be able to open up more money to individuals like behavioral specialists. And also make us more fiscally responsible. I said we're not flush with cash. But one thing that we're certainly not at a deficit, but if you look at the school board's webpage right now, the Board of Education's webpage, there's no contingency plan for a deficit. It would be very nice, and I think it would help our schools' ratings if we actually had a rainy day fund or something. And we don't need to, in my opinion, we don't need to increase taxes to do that. Just being fiscally responsible, like I think we all agree here that everyone should be. And the biggest, I don't say the biggest, but the third would be, I would say the board, to restore order to the board. And this is not hard. You're electing adults. And it's not hard things. It's things like paying attention to the person who's speaking to you. Make eye contact with them. Ask relevant questions. Don't talk down to your own board members. If someone makes a motion out of turn, politely say, I'm sorry, that's out of turn. It doesn't need to be bickering in front of our electorate. That's not helping our students. And it's not helping the hate that we can't seem to figure out as an adult population. It's tragic if it trickles down to the students. So to the extent we could just be adults at board meetings, and that's for everyone involved. It's not playing on cell phones. It's not interrupting another board member when speaking. It's politely asking a citizen to, hey, your time's up. We're sorry, time to move on. And I will. Thank you.
Well, I have to piggyback on a couple of the candidates that are challenging with me but my main concern is, I have to say, first thing, when I said I was running for JPS board candidate, they said, "You doing that? Why are you doing that for? What you doing?" So I really never really got that much involved. I mean, I would hear things, but when I went to a few board meetings, I was kind of taken aback, because how are you expecting our kids to act right in schools if adults on the board who are the higher ups cannot act adults around the community? That, to me, that puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth. So my thing is to bring a relationship back with the board. Everybody working well together for one main thing, for the children, for the teachers, for the administrators. Everyone work together, and it starts from the higher up. So that's my main thing, is to make a relationship better, keep personal businesses personal and business business. My number 2 is parent involvement. My biggest thing is to see more parents involved with their children. Don't let them feel like the teachers are the ones to show the kids what they need to learn. I mean, they are there to teach, but I think kids appreciate more when they see their parents are more involved. I think they appreciate that they're looked at, and that what they're learning is important. So I think, and some of the parents may not even feel comfortable with the things that the children are learning. So we need to have that kind of session for parents to get involved and know more about what is being taught in the schools. And the other thing is equity. Equity isn't just race, it's poverty, it's a lot of different things. We need to work on that with all the schools. Different schools have different equity challenges. I work at the Northeast Equity Committee, and to learn about the different culture differences there is a lot different than what it be at Sharp Park or Cascades. So it just needs to be looked at by the board, and the differences with the children. And to get that mental health, we need to get more counselors in the system to help with students with the mental health and the bullying system. If we can get those things under control, I think that will help with bringing things together for the children and the parents and the administration.
We can't hear you. Can you put the mic to your mouth?
Oh, I'm
Thank
done.
you. Next time.
So to start, I would like to ensure that students have the resources and the support that they need. I had thought about some things, maybe working on, policies to create teacher funds. A teacher fund, this is something that we could, have on record, maybe that can provide for teachers for that purpose. I'd like to prioritize thoughtful, fair, and data-driven decisions. An example of that, thinking about virtual school, looking at that, what's happening with that, looking at the trend, who is it affecting, what can we do policy-wise in order to fix those things. And mainly our educators, they're my last priority. I've had a couple teacher friends, and I've never heard in a profession so much where people have to buy things to do their job. Spend a lot of money out of their pockets that they don't necessarily have. And I've always thought that, if there was something in some space that, I was ever in, and here I am, that would be something that would be priority for me. Because having those relationships with those teachers and seeing what they go through sometimes with that is not something that I feel like I could be satisfied with. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. No more clapping. We're gonna get serious, right? We're gonna get serious. No more clapping. We're gonna have to hold it to the end. I know you can do it. Y'all, we're gonna get focused. Tom's gonna get serious about the 1 minute so we can get through some of these. Less than 1 minute, it's totally cool too. Because we'd like to get through the questions we have, but we also wanna make sure if audience have questions, okay? So, Ms. Cotton, you're gonna start the next one. You're going to remember to put your mic up like this so everyone can hear you. Here's the next question. What are the steps you will take to engage and increase the decision-making power of parents, caregivers, and students in district issues such as the budget, curriculum, and equity plan? Can you specifically address how you will engage caregivers and students who don't tend to fill out surveys or aren't able to just come to school board meetings frequently? 1 minute, you ready? Okay, go.
Everybody likes to get a gift. People like freebies. So I think if you make it some kind of round advantage for people, that if you fill out the survey, maybe you can get a gift, maybe you get a gift card. Everybody wants something free. But anyway, to engage caregivers and students and administrators. I really didn't think a lot about this, but I think if you make yourself more visible, bring things more out to people. I know that everybody's busy, so just being more transparent, making more flyers available, just being more engaged with the community of different community involvement things. That's all I can really think of at this time. That was kind of off the cuff.
One thing that I would do for certain is respond to emails. If there's people that are afraid to speak in public, that's okay. That's fine, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. But your voice should still be heard, and we live in a digital age now. So email me if I get elected. You could email me with your concerns, and I will hear you out. I will respond, and it won't be condescending, and I perhaps will ask questions in response. That's how you engage the people of this city. You actually make them feel as if they have a stake in what's going to be decided by engaging with the questions they ask. I know we can't do it during public comment. In an email, that would mean a ton to a citizen who's actually feel like you're listening to them. It's something as simple as responding to emails. There's also, you just have a general comment box on the school's website that board members could siphon through and decide as a board, while we're all getting along, what issues are common, what are more questions that we receive, and let's discuss, do we need to have a separate public hearing on this? I'm done, sorry.
Yes.
So kind of piggyback off what Scott said. So I actually started looking at the school board because I had an issue at my kid's school and reached out to the superintendent and the school board and did so through email, and only one school board member bothered to even respond to the email. So being responsive is number one. Having town halls similar to this outside of the board meeting so we can hear from the community, because as Scott said, those 3 minutes, 5 minutes, that's not back and forth. So having those town halls, and they, again, bringing back a COVID policy where the community could email in their comments to the board and it could be read and the board could still hear their voice. So let's bring that back. For people who can't attend those meetings, that's another good tool to use is the email function. So town halls, emails, and being responsive when people do reach out to you with problems. That's my minute. Thank you.
I was thinking about this, and when I was thinking about it, I was considering the fact that we already have all of these events at schools that take place that students and parents come to. Things like open houses and parent-teacher conferences and those kinds of things. So if they're already there, wouldn't it be delightful if we were too, and we were available during those times so it wasn't an extra thing? Even like the school pickup line or drop off, if we could just be there during some of those times where parents and students, administrators, probably pickup time is not the best, but if we could be there and be available, accessible, approachable during those times, I think that would go a really long way. And then if I have time, maybe we could move some of these school board meetings to some of these schools that we have out in the community. So it's kind of like we're bringing in those areas for our meetings with food.
I really feel like we have to start all the way at the beginning. And that comes with informing parents and caregivers that they have power, they have a voice. Sometimes it's not the lack of showing up, it's the lack of being informed as to what they're showing up for. They don't necessarily feel as if they're going to get a response or have a place to make a statement, or given what some of their barriers are, they may be embarrassed to approach a board member and feel as if there is no space for that. So I think our board and myself moving forward would do ourselves a service by investing and reaching out to our community and meeting them where they are. We need to go to where our community is. Now, whether that's the King Center, the Boo Center, it makes no difference. We need to actively go out to seek to re-engage.
So I'm sort of piggybacking as well off of some of the things that have been heard on. I'm thinking about, proposing community forums, and just thinking we have to be creative. I think about myself. I'm sorry. I think about myself when I was in the 9th grade. I lost my mother, and my father was very interested in my education. I graduated last year with my degree, and he was tickled. But back then, his involvement was slim because he had to work. And, was he concerned about my grades? Yes, but I think that, I fell in, I was a visual learner. There were just things that I needed, and at that time, he just didn't have it. So I think that we have to really get creative. Is it that parents don't want to be involved or they don't have a car? Can we work with JTA? What do we have to do? And I guess it's just really like, it's been mentioned, being transparent and asking those questions. I did my internship at Aware, and it was at that time. Sorry.
Thank you all for those comments. This is an important question to ask next. How would you increase transparency and accountability in decision making as a member of the board?
This would be a simple fix for me. I would do two things. First, I would ask that on the school's website there is a guide to how to FOIA the school district. FOIA is a very effective thing, and I'm sorry to the current administration for telling the electorate that it exists.
I don't know what FOIA is.
FOIA is the Freedom of Information
Oh,
Act.
that's the AR, okay.
Correct. And so you are allowed to FOIA your state government or anyone in elected positions.
No, I know what it is.
Right. So the fear of FOIA in state agencies' eyes makes them more transparent in their decisions, because the punishment for not complying with FOIA is automatic attorney's fees. And if we're going to make decisions that are not transparent, we're going to see increased attorney's fees. And we don't want that. That's the deterrent. That's the teeth that keeps this board transparent. The second is complying with the Open Meetings Act.
So I'm gonna kind of repeat myself a little bit, because I actually think it's that simple. Being transparent in your decisions is simple, just being responsive to the community. If somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, you voted this way on this reason, why? Respond to the email, call the person, have the conversation. I would be committed to making my reasons why I voted a certain way available on all my social media platforms. And again, email, call, text. Let's just respond and have a conversation. I think it's literally that simple. For accountability and transparency, it's just let's talk like we are today. Let's talk. How do you feel about this decision? Why do you want me to go this way as my constituent? Why do you want me to vote this way versus that way? And as my constituent, I should be listening to you. If I disagree with it, it doesn't matter. You voted for me. I didn't vote for me. Thank you.
For me, it seems pretty simple. I'm sure it gets more complicated, but I think about my students. When I'm about to go in and make a decision, I want to make really clear what is going to happen at this meeting that we are about to make a decision on. What's going on, and explain what we're going to be talking about and what the vote will be. 2, coming through afterwards with an explanation, an explanation of what was decided, and 3, what my vote was and why I voted that way. So I think if I can do that and then be responsive in advance, if people know what that decision is, then I should be able to say at the end of it, this is how I voted because I listened to you, and this is what happened, and this is what we're facing next. So again, on all my social media platforms, via email, I think if you just speak the truth and are responsive, that's all you need to do.
We've heard a lot of great answers, and I think my answer ties into that as well. However, I think a big portion of it in increasing transparency is based on honesty. Whether the vote was made the way the rest of the board wants it to be made or not, you voted. Stand behind it. You should have been convicted when you made the vote. You should have been listening to your constituents prior to the vote. Their voices are what should be ringing in your head when you go to sit down at that table and make the decisions. So I think honesty is 100% the first step, and I believe that proper training and proper education on policy and procedure so that there are no misunderstandings at that board table. And if they are, we have to give the grace to have that discussion right then and there. Thank you.
She said, I think there's been a lot of good answers that I agree with as well. You know, being available. As far as transparency, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just drawing a blank. I'm sorry. So I have down here board meetings are in place. I'm so sorry. I'm so nervous.
You're doing a good job. Come on, you got it.
I'm so nervous. I'm trying to be myself. I'm trying to let go.
Come on, you got it.
Like they've said, you know, just being transparent. You know, for me, I don't have board experience, but I do have children. You know, I want parents, the community, teachers to know that their voices matter to me. I want to respond. I want to be available. I know that might seem cliche, but that's really what it takes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mike's to me. I'm sorry. I'm like Shannon, I'm nervous too. I mean, I'm not into public speaking, but anyway, my main goal is to help the children, but as far as the question is, being transparent and accountable. And accountability is key. Being visible, being available, being accounted for what you say. Don't be afraid to speak of what you feel and what you want to say. And then don't be shamed for what you say. You know, because it is, you know, everybody is freedom of speech. So just like he said, it's freedom of speech. So like being accountable and, you know, and not be afraid to speak what you want to say.
Thanks. You can pass it to Chris. What are the most important qualities to you in selecting a superintendent?
So as a parent, I'm going to be looking for someone who is transparent and accountable. We just talked a little bit about that. But they're going to have high integrity, and they're going to be open to constructive criticism, and they're going to be innovative in their vision for the district of where it goes, and they're going to be open to all sorts of different ideas of how we get there and what that should look like. And most importantly, they're going to recognize that they work for the school board and the school board does not work for them. That's it. Thank you.
When I think of an ideal superintendent that I would want to work for, I think of Joe Sanfilippo. He is on Instagram. You should look him up. He's amazing. He was the 2019 National Superintendent of the Year. And I think as a teacher, like, I would lay down in front of a train for that man because of the culture that he has inspired at his school. So when I think of a great superintendent, I think of somebody, one, who has direction. They know why we're in this, and it's for students, and that's it. Two, they have intention. Every interaction matters because every interaction could be remembered by someone. So I want them to come in with intention of making all of those interactions, from a paraprofessional to a student to another board member to teachers, to count in a positive way. And then third, I want them to love and serve with humility. I don't want this person to have all of the answers. I want them to admit when they don't have the answers, and I want them to go to the people who know what's going on to get those answers.
I think the most important qualities in selecting a superintendent are, one, they have to be a team player. because no superintendent is working on their own. They are dependent of the staff that works beneath them, the board that governs them. It's a process and it's a collective. So in that, I would also be looking for someone that is strategic, that is thinking ahead, not just about this year or next year, but what does our district look like 5 to 10 years from now? How do we make that impact greater as our kids are getting older? And just overall one that's equitable, one that wants to have the conversation, one that if you are not in that space yet, you're willing to get there. You're going to be willing to reach out to parents and have conversations with parents. Thank you.
So I heard, and I've been watching, and we've been talking a lot about equity and the impact and importance of equity, but I haven't heard anyone mention conversations and education around anti-racism. And we know equity without anti-racism are just words and checking the box. So I'm curious to your thoughts on how you prioritize anti-racism work, being a part of the board, and also holding your superintendent accountable.
Thank you.
That's me. That's me. Yeah, I got the mic. So as far as anti-racism work goes, I think that as a board, we cannot presume to be the experts on what that means and what that looks like in Jackson Public Schools. So I think two important things. One is engaging our teachers who are in the trenches with the students and figuring out how is it not one more thing for teachers to do, and how do they do it with fidelity and integrity in their classrooms in a real way, not a check the boxes way. Like, what does that look like for the staff? Two, we need people who know what they're talking about and know how to train these people to make it something that's not just a checkbox. Somebody professional who can teach us what we should do in our classrooms, because again, it's not for us to know. We need those experts to help us navigate that.
Aisha, will you repeat your question one more time for me for beginning to end?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really about, while we're talking about the discussion of equity, we know work in equity without anti-racism is just the check the box work. So I want to know, as a board member, how will you prioritize anti-racism in this work? How you hold your superintendent accountable for that? And I think it may speak, so I didn't say this, but a little bit of a personal journey about your journey on anti-racism, because we cannot just assume because someone looks a certain way that they're even on that journey.
Well, my personal journey stems from being an infant to now being a grown woman living in Jackson County, being the home of the Republican Party. So my life is rooted in anti-racism because I am a biracial woman and I get it on both sides. So that work has to be done. It is my life, is me, is who I am, is everything that I represent, to ensure the fact that folks on both sides have growing to do. It is not just one or the other. There is education straight across the board that needs to happen. So in that, I feel like we really need to get comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations and laying the groundwork to let people know that it's okay. You can be uncomfortable. Don't sit in that uncomfortability. So in that, I think it's just, it's a no-brainer and has to be done.
I agree with what Tabitha said. I think it's going to take acknowledgement. Like you said, sometimes it's hard to be in those uncomfortable spaces and have those types of conversations. But I think that they're really important because there's a lot of growth that can be had in doing that work.
Well, I think training could come to the teachers and the parents. So training would, because people they didn't just grow up, with anti-racism. I mean, you had to be taught. I mean, there's just too much differences in the school. You just can't expect that teacher to know, oh, I'm gonna handle this, I'm gonna handle that. So I think there should be some training among the students and the teachers and administrators.
I think it's very important for board members like myself to recognize that I come from an area of privilege. And that, in fact, there is implicit bias, and if you disagree with that, you're ignoring reality. And so it takes people like myself, who are a step ahead from a lot of individuals in this room, to recognize that. And to, you know what, to pass it on to my little boys, and to then, as a board member, make it a priority in the way that I make decisions. Look, it's something that it's implicit. It's the way America was when I grew up. It was the way America was when my parents grew up. I went to a school that was not as diverse as Jackson. It wasn't until college that I come to the realization there's implicit bias in everything from commercials to hiring decisions. And so, and to jump to say about training, for state employees, we're required to go through this type of training. So we have to go through implicit bias. And I'll tell you, it's tough for a lot of older white males to agree that it exists, and it does. And that makes sure that we recognize that up front.
So when I turned 30 last year, I learned my most important lesson I think I've learned all my life, and that's that I'm still learning, and that I don't have all the answers. And you get those answers by listening to people, listening to the experts, and being willing to adapt. If you're doing something wrong, or if you have a wrong mindset, you have to be able to adapt. And listening and learning has been the #1 skill that I've tried to hone over the last year since I've learned that lesson. And recognizing that my experience is not your experience. And being able to not only recognize that, but then to have a conversation around how can we make this better for your experience and for my experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? You and then you.
So, okay. Most of you admitted or talked about wanting to be accountable and transparent and just respond to people, right? As many as you know, most people complain about not being responded to. Yet, some of you mentioned having heavy jobs. And so, when balancing your bread and butter versus this, a volunteer role, because everybody can talk the talk while campaigning. So once January comes, when you're in that role, what are you going to do to make sure you have that balance, that you are sticking to your word and you are responding and all that? Because half of you also have kids too. So you have your work and you have your kids, they're a priority, and you have this. And so, yeah, you know where I'm going.
So as a social worker, we're always on the clock. I feel like, at the core of who I am, I'm always there when there's a need. I worked in the housing a few years ago. People still call me now. So, I'm taking this on, realizing that it's going to be a task. I realize that people want to be heard. And sometimes that helps a lot, knowing that you are available, knowing that, you're listening to them, that you care about their concerns. And then my children are grown. I just have my granddaughter, which my daughter does a great job, but I've taken into consideration the heaviness, of the job, and I'm gonna have to dive in. There's gonna be a lot of education, things I have to learn, but I feel like what I have at my core is that a love and care for people, and wanting to, help and assist when I can. So that's it for me. Thank you.
This is a volunteer position? I'm doing this because I can do this now, because when I really wanted to do this years ago, thank you. But anyway, when I really wanted to do this years ago, I've been a single parent most of my life, and most of my son's life, I should say. And I didn't want to do it when he was growing up. I always put him first. I didn't want to, do things that's going to hinder him from doing what he wants to do. But now that I have grandkids that are in the system, one day I just said, well, they got some openings for the school board. It just so happened they got 3. So I said, this must be my time. So I am busy. I am a manager of a call center for a home care and hospice company. I am busy. I'm surprised my work phone hasn't gone off. I have that with me all the time, but I sacrifice.
Yeah, I'm going to start this by saying my job title makes me sound a lot more important than I really am. So, and to be clear, Assistant Attorney General, I've been there long enough that where, I'll take a step back. One of the benefits of being a public service in the area of law is I don't have to bill. I don't have to do the business side. I don't have to go after hours to rub shoulders with high-paying clients. My clients probably, sorry, State of Michigan, you probably messed up 4 times since I've been here. So, and they're always going to be business for me. I don't have to worry about it. I go to work and practice law, and I've been doing it close to 15 years. That I get out of, I'm more efficient now. So I have time after work to dedicate to things like this. And on top of that, I've also found myself in an unfortunate situation where I now have half of my time free. And I'm using that, half of that time free as a way to make sure I dedicate it to this and of course, other things I'm involved with as well.
So that's a great question because it's a question that I actually struggled with for months. When I first started paying attention to the school board, when I had my issue, I reached out to friends, family, trusted people in my life, and one of those people was the owner of my company, my employer, and he was so encouraging and said, absolutely, this is the space you need to be in. And my wife and kids, even my kids, my 6-year-old, he was 5 at the time, I even asked him, I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, absolutely. So it was a long discussion with a lot of people in my life before I went down to the county building and filed the paperwork. So that's a good question. The commitment's there. It's been there for almost a year now.
You took my answer. This was also something that was a big hang up for me before declaring. So a lot of conversations with my husband and my kids thinking about how I would balance this with school. I had been thinking for a while that I was in a good place where I wanted to start doing something to serve the community. And this just kind of popped up and I thought, hey, I have some experience there. This might be a good place for me. I think to answer your question, it's a matter of priority and being passionate about something. I don't think there's a more magical, important, meaningful place in the world than a classroom. And I'm gonna have that in my face all day when I see my own chemistry students and I am working on their stuff, and I'm gonna know that the work that we're doing here is just as important for the students of JPS. I'm also pretty good at carving out little pockets of time and managing, like, here's when I'm gonna answer my emails. So, I got this.
A good portion of my work puts me in community on a very regular basis, attending community events and things of that nature. So there's a separation between the board, the learning, the work, and the extra that we're trying to facilitate with getting people acclimated. I feel like that almost gives me a little bit of leverage because it's 2 birds with 1 stone. I am here, I'm able to talk to people, I'm able to communicate and set the tone for the board members to be approachable. And then, as Alana said, just prioritizing. This is important to me as well. I have a minimum of 6 more years in this district. I'm not going anywhere. I'm invested and I care about what goes on because my kids are attending these schools every day.
Thank you. Yeah. One more question, and I'm so glad it goes to the youth because this is why we're doing this. All right? That's what it's all about. And so this young man, take the mic.
Yeah, so I heard a lot about communication and emails, things like that. A few months ago, I sent an email to the board, and no one responded but 1 board member. I spoke to the board, no one responded but 1 board member, the same board member. And that made me doubt my opinions that I sent to the board about things that could be improved. And it doubted my position as a student Parkside. How do you plan to use the student voice? Anything from creating positions on the board that would help advise you guys, because you're not in the classroom 8 hours a day, to creating student and funding student groups like the Youth NAACP, Youth Council, things like that.
I think that is an amazing, amazing question, so thank you for that. I I am fully in support of sitting down with our youth. I know that, Jackson has a youth city council. I feel like we could have a youth board members. When we're talking about consulting parents and getting them engaged, I think we've all kind of missed touching on the piece that kind of matters the most, which is engaging with these kids and hearing their perspective and what they're going through. And you are so right. You are the one sitting there for 8 hours of the day. And really, your voice is the most important. So I think that is an amazing suggestion. And if I'm elected to our board, that would be one of the things that I push heavily.
You want to just go back down?
Yeah, go back down.
All right. Yeah, we want to hear from you. I think that's amazing. Bravo to you for reaching out. I'm so sorry that no one got back to you. I also think it is. Oh, I'm so sorry that only one person got back to you. I'm nervous too. Okay. And I also think you as students probably have better ideas than we could ever come up with for how you get involved with the board and what you would like to see. So besides, presume to think that we have all the answers and we know how you should be interacted with and how you might do things, I think with your big, beautiful brains, maybe you tell us and you give us some suggestions and then we go from there.
First of all, I can't wait to see your name on the ballot one day and be able to vote for you. So when I went to Tomlinson, T.A. Wilson, I actually served on the very first student council and alternative education programming in JPS at the time, and that was in 2010. I don't know if they still have it. It's something I should look into. But having those student councils, even if it's just the president of that student council, come to the school board meetings and voice what's going on in your building, what do you see going on in your building, what do you want different, even if it's just something on the lunch menu. The school board members should be able to hear from you and respond to you and take your information and take it seriously, because as you said, you're the one sitting in the classroom for 8 hours a day, not us. We show up once a month.
Perhaps I missed it. What's your name, sir?
Avion.
Avion or Tavion?
Avion.
Avion. Do not let your experience chill what your drive is to making sure that your community is going to be better. Don't ever let that happen. If not a single person responded, send that email again. And the person who responded, bless them. Keep sending emails. And one thing that I want to do is to make sure that our youth understand that there are a ton of 501c3 organizations out there. They don't have to just go to board meetings and voice their concerns. They can get involved in the community by being involved with, again, Grow Jackson, people for the Parks and Trails of Jackson. And these are things that are not only going to, again, strengthen our community, because I still believe that public school is a community hub. It serves not just students, but the lesser thans too, in bad times, in crisis. We get students like yourself involved, you're going to find yourself in amazing places in this world. Don't lose your drive, and I'm hopeful that this board, whoever's elected, will continue to push 501c3s, which at its core is giving back and making your community better. So I thank you, and keep on asking questions, bud.
Avian, thanks for the question. Very intelligent student. Good to see you go far. If I get elected, my thing is to get into the schools as a superintendent. And I don't know if they still have youth councils in the schools. I know my grandson was a youth council president, but that was back when he was at Sharp Park. I haven't heard him say anything about youth council, but I think they should bring that back. And then us as board members should be able to meet with the youth councils and see what the issues are in the school. So, and the best place to start is with the students. So we hope to hear from you.
Thank you for your question, Avion. I appreciate you being here today. I've actually seen where boards work with student advisory councils. I think that would be a great idea. If we decided to, like you said, you're the one in the classroom, and this is a different day and age, and you all deal with a lot of different things, I'm sure, than I did when I was in school. So we definitely want to hear from you, and I feel like if I was elected, that would be a good way to go. We'll see if we can bring the students in with the board, work it out together. So thank you for your question. I appreciate it.
Let's give everyone a round of applause.